Hello, everyone. Got a few dirty jokes for you today.
So one afternoon, Donald Trump is strolling along the beach when he spots something half buried in the sand. It's an old, dusty lamp. Curious, he picks it up and gives it a rub. In a puff of smoke, a genie appears. The genie folds his arms and says, "I will grant you 3 wishes." Trump thinks for a moment, then says, "You know what? I'm tired of getting sued for everything I do. I want there to be no more courts." The genie nods. "Granted, you have no wishes left." Trump frowns. "Wait a minute. You told me I had 3 wishes, and I've only used 1. The genie smirks. "Sue me." So, a Ukrainian peasant finds a genie in a bottle. The genie offers him 3 wishes. He's a stupid peasant, but he knows what he likes. The peasant says, "I want the Chinese to invade Ukraine from the east and then go back to China." So it happens, and the Chinese army invaded Ukraine from the east and easily defeats the country. For his next wish, before the genie can even finish his sentence, the peasant again asks for the Chinese to invade Ukraine from the east and then go home. So it happens, and the Chinese defeat Ukraine from the east. For his third wish, the peasant again asks for the Chinese to invade Ukraine from the east and go home. "I gave you 3 wishes," the genie cries. "Why did you ask for the Chinese to invade Ukraine from the east 3 times? The peasant smirks and says, "Because to invade Ukraine 3 times, they had to go through Russia 6 times. So a bear and a rabbit find a magic genie in the woods. He grants them 3 wishes apiece. The rabbit says, "I wish for a motorcycle." As the motorcycle appeared, the bear scoffed, "What a waste of a wish." "I wish for all the bears in the forest to be female." The genie granted his wish, and the rabbit made his second wish, "I wish for a helmet." As the rabbit's helmet appeared, the bear laughed. "You're so stupid. I wish for all of the bears in the neighboring forests were female." The genie granted the wish, and then the bear made his last wish. "Now I wish that all the bears in all the forests in all of the world were female." The genie granted his last wish. Then the rabbit pulled on his helmet and revved up his motorcycle, and before he tore off into the sunset, he pointed at the bear and said, "I wish he was gay." So George Bush, Barack Obama, and Donald Trump found a magical lamp, and a genie came out. "I will grant each of you 1 wish," said the genie, "if you can tell me 1 true fact about yourself. If your statement is false, then you will die." George Bush thought for a moment and said, "I think I was the best president of the United States." The genie shook his head. "No, that is not true." And suddenly, George Bush died. Then it was Obama's turn. "I think as president, I have contributed the most to civil rights in America," he said. The genie shook his head again. "No, that is also not true." And suddenly, Obama died. Finally, it was Trump's turn. With all his confidence, Trump declared, "I think," and suddenly, Trump died. So one day, a man is walking along the beach when he spots an old brass lamp sticking out of the sand. He picks it up, gives it a rub, and poof, a genie appears in a cloud of smoke. The genie says, "I have the power to grant you 3 wishes, but keep this in mind. Whatever you wish for, your mother-in-law will get double." The man thinks for a moment, then says, "All right, for my first wish, I want $1 billion. The genie snaps his fingers. Granted. But remember, your mother-in-law now has $2 billion. The man shrugs. That's fine. For your second wish? The genie asks. I want a 20,000 square foot mansion in the Hamptons. The genie nods. Granted. But your mother-in-law's mansion is now twice as big. The man just smiles. That's fine. The genie tilts his head. All right, what's your third wish? The man grins and says, I want you to beat me half to death. So a guy is walking along the beach when he spots an old lamp. He picks it up, gives it a rub, and poof, two blonde genies appear. They smile and say, thank you for freeing us. You get 3 wishes. The man thinks for a moment, then makes his first wish. Poof, he's standing in a vast room, waist deep in $100 bills. Off in the distance, he notices a door, wading through the piles of cash. He opens it. Poof, he's now in a room filled wall to wall with beautiful, naked women. Grinning from ear to ear, he spots another door and makes his way through the crowd, taking his time as he passes by. He opens the door and finds the 2 blonde genies waiting for him. Without a word, they grab him, drag him outside, and hang him by the neck from a tree. As they walk away, one genie says to the other, I understand why he wished for wealth beyond his wildest dreams. I understand why he wished to be surrounded by beautiful, naked women. But why in the world did he wish to be hung like a black man? So, in a quiet little neighborhood, there were 2 neighbors, one rich, one poor. The poor man had something special, a magic lamp. Every morning, he would give the lamp a wipe, and poof, a genie would appear, saying, ask what you want. The poor man always asked for the same thing, a simple cup of tea. The rich neighbor, curious and envious, watched this happen day after day. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore. He said to the poor man, I'll give you my car and my house in exchange for that lamp. The poor man thought it over, then agreed to the trade. That very day, the rich man excitedly wiped the lamp. The genie appeared and said, ask what you want. The rich man smiled and said, I want a huge mansion and an even better car than I had before. The genie shook his head. Sorry, sir. I only serve tea and coffee. So a woman was strolling along the beach when she spotted something shiny in the sand, a dusty old lamp. She picked it up, gave it a rub, and poof, a genie appeared in a swirl of smoke. The woman, still amazed, asked, do I get 3 wishes? The genie shook his head. Sorry, due to inflation, corporate downsizing, global competition, and outsourcing to third world countries, I can only grant you 1 wish. So, what will it be? Without hesitation, the woman pulled out a map. I want peace in the Middle East. See these countries. I want them to stop fighting forever. The genie studied the map and groaned. Lady, these countries have been at war for thousands of years. I've been stuck in that lamp for centuries. I'm good, but I'm not that good. Pick something else. The woman thought for a moment, then said, all right. I've never been able to find the right man. I want one who's considerate and fun, likes to cook, helps with housework, is great in bed, gets along with my family, doesn't watch sports all day, and is completely faithful. The genie went silent, then let out a deep sigh. He rubbed his temples, glanced back at her, and said, let me see that damn map again. So a man was wandering through the desert when he spotted an old lamp half buried in the sand. He picked it up, gave it a rub, and poof, a genie appeared. The genie said, "Congratulations. You get 2 wishes." The man frowned. "Wait, isn't it supposed to be 3 wishes? Why only 2? The genie smirked. "Take a look in your pants." The man peeked. Then his eyes went wide in amazement. The genie nodded knowingly. "Yeah, I've been doing this a long time." So an Englishman, an American, and a Japanese man are on a boat, just seconds away from plunging over a massive waterfall to their deaths. Suddenly, poof, a genie appears in a swirl of smoke. The genie says, "I can't save you from your fate, but I can grant each of you 1 last wish before you die." The American steps forward. "I love my country. Before I go, I want to sing my national anthem 1 last time, the full version. Give my friends lyric sheets so they can join in. I want a full orchestra, a gospel choir, and when we hit the big crescendo, I want to fire an AR-15 into the air to celebrate my God-given right to bear arms." The genie nods. "It will be done." Next, the Japanese man steps up. "I, too, love my country. I want to taste the delicacies of my village 1 last time. Fermented sticky soybeans, fresh sea urchin, raw horse meat, pickled seaweed, sugared omelets. And please, enough for my friends to share." The genie nods again. "It will be done." Finally, the Englishman quietly walks up to the genie and leans in to whisper, "Just kill me before the food and that bloody song." So an Irishman is walking along the road when he spots an old lamp. He picks it up, gives it a rub, and poof, a genie appears in a swirl of smoke. The genie smiles. "Thank you for freeing me. I will grant you 3 wishes." The Irishman thinks for a moment and says, "I want a pint of Guinness that never runs out." Poof, a pint appears, filled to the brim with rich, dark Guinness. He takes a long drink, sets it down, and instantly it's full again. The genie grins. "Amazing, isn't it? Now, what will you have for your other 2 wishes?" The Irishman looks at the pint, then back at the genie and says, "I'll take 2 more of these." So, through a poorly worded genie wish, a man suddenly found himself with a 20-inch long manhood. At first, the bragging rights were fun, but it didn't take long for him to realize it was uncomfortable, impractical, and basically unusable. Determined to fix his problem, he sought out every enchanter and witch he could find. Eventually, someone told him about a magical talking frog deep in the enchanted forest. According to the legend, if a man asked this frog for a kiss, her answer would determine the result. If she said yes, his manhood would grow by 4 inches. If she said no, it would shrink by 4 inches. "This is perfect," the man thought. He put on his dirtiest rags, rolled in a pigsty, and set off for the forest. After wandering for hours, he spotted a frog by a quiet pond. He knelt down and asked, "Would you like to kiss me?" The frog took one look at his filthy, disheveled state and said no. The man felt a strange tingle. Checking quickly, he saw his manhood was now 16 inches. Excited, he asked again, "Please, could I have a kiss?" The frog rolled her eyes. No, it shrank to 12 inches. The man thought for a moment. 8 inches would be far more manageable. So he asked once more, "Please, madam, may I kiss you?" The frog groaned. "How many times do I have to tell you?" "No, No. No. So a stoner is chilling in his apartment when he spots his dusty old bong. He gives it a good rub, and poof, a genie appears in a cloud of smoke. The genie says, "You have freed me, dude. I'll grant you 3 wishes." The stoner grins. "All right, for my first wish, I want a 6-inch joint." Poof, a joint appears, and the stoner and genie sit down and smoke it together. "For my second wish, I want a 12-inch blunt." Poof, a fat blunt appears, and they light it up together. "For my third wish, I want an 18-inch monster roll with a THC concentrate core." Poof, the biggest blunt you've ever seen appears, and the 2 of them blaze away until the room is a cloud. Finally, the genie gets to his feet, swaying a little. He starts to wander toward the door, then stops, turns around with a hazy grin, and says, "Oh, man, one more wish." So an Englishman, an Irishman, and an American are stranded on a deserted island when they stumble upon a genie's lamp. They give it a rub, and poof, a genie appears. The genie says, "Normally, I'd give 3 wishes to one person, but since there are 3 of you and you all found me together, you'll each get 1 wish." The Englishman goes first. "I've been stuck here for 2 years. I wish I could go home to my family in England." Poof, he's gone. The American steps up. "Same here. I've been stranded for 2 years, too. I wish I could go home to my family in America." Poof, he's gone. The Irishman thinks for a moment, then says, "Well, I'm feeling real lonely here now. I wish my 2 buddies were back with me." So 3 guys were hiking through the woods when they stumbled across an old lamp lying in the dirt. "Looks like one of those genie lamps," the first guy said, picking it up. He gave it a rub. Poof, a genie appeared in a swirl of smoke. The genie beamed. "At last, you've freed me after all these years. As a reward, I'll grant each of you 3 wishes." The first guy didn't waste a second. "I want $1 billion. Poof, a bank statement appeared in his hands, showing a balance of $1,003.50. The second guy said, "I want to be the richest man alive." Poof, he was now holding documents, proving his net worth was over $100 billion. The third guy thought for a moment, then grinned. "I want my left arm to rotate clockwise for the rest of my life." Poof, his arm started spinning in circles. The genie nodded. "All right, let's move on to your second wishes." The first guy said, "I want to be married to the most beautiful woman on earth." Poof, a stunning woman appeared and wrapped herself around his arm. The second guy smirked. "I want to be so good-looking and charismatic that I can have any woman I want." Poof, his face transformed into a movie star version of himself, and the first guy's new wife immediately began flirting with him. The third guy, still watching his arm spin, said, "I want my right arm to rotate counterclockwise until I die." Poof, now both arms were whirling in opposite directions. The genie raised an eyebrow. "All right, gentlemen, think very carefully about your 3rd wishes." The first guy said, "I never want to get sick or injured." "Perfect health until the day I die." Poof, his skin cleared, his aches vanished, and he looked younger instantly. The second guy said, "I never want to grow old. I want to stay 29 forever." Poof, he instantly looked a few years younger. The third guy's grin widened. "I want my head to nod back and forth forever." Poof, now his head was bobbing non-stop while his arms spun like a windmill. The genie clapped his hands. Good luck, fellas. Then he vanished in another puff of smoke. Years later, the three men met up again. The first guy said proudly, I've multiplied my fortune many times over. My wife is incredible, and I haven't even had a sniffle in all these years. The second guy smiled. I've donated to charities worldwide. I'm still the richest man alive, and I haven't aged a day. Oh, and by the way, your wife is pretty wild in bed. Then the third guy walked in arms, still spinning, head bobbing up and down, and said, Guys, I think I screwed up. So a husband and wife in their 60s were just a week away from celebrating their 40th wedding anniversary. Knowing his wife adored antiques, the husband found a beautiful old brass oil lamp and presented it to her as a gift. She unwrapped it, admired the craftsmanship, and gave it a little polish. Poof! A genie appeared in a swirl of smoke. Thank you for freeing me, the genie said. In return, I will grant each of you one wish. The wife's eyes lit up. I've always dreamed of traveling the world in style. I wish for an all-expenses-paid, first-class, around-the-world cruise with my husband by my side. Poof! In her hands appeared a set of tickets for a luxury cruise, along with itineraries for extravagant side trips, fine dining, and shopping sprees. The husband thought for a moment, then said with a sly grin, I wish I had a female companion who was 30 years younger than me. The genie smiled. Your wish is my command. Poof! The husband instantly turned 93 years old. So a man walks into a bar carrying a burlap sack. He sets it on the counter, reaches inside, and pulls out a tiny piano, a little bench, and astonishingly, a 12-inch tall man who sits down and begins playing beautiful music on the miniature piano. The bartender stares in disbelief. Where on earth did you get that? The man grins and pulls out an old, dusty genie bottle. Here, give it a try. Curious, the bartender rubs the bottle. Poof! A tired-looking genie appears. The genie says, You have one wish. The bartender thinks for a second. I wish for 1 million bucks. Suddenly, ducks start shooting out of the bottle, flapping, quacking, and filling the entire bar. The bartender shouts over the chaos, Hey, I didn't say 1 million ducks. I said 1 million bucks. The man shrugs. Yeah, and you think I asked for a 12-inch pianist? So my children asked me once why I am the way I am. So I told them. One day, shortly after my first child was born, I came across an old lamp and a bundle of baby clothes. I wiped the lamp off, and a genie appeared and offered me 3 wishes. But, the genie added, your wishes will come with a cost. That was okay, I thought. I'd do anything for my children. Oh, genie, I said, please give my daughter beautiful blue eyes. Your wish is granted, said the genie. Over the coming weeks, friends and family would all remark on what gorgeous eyes my daughter had. A clear blue like the afternoon sky in August. But the very next morning, I woke up and everything looked blurry. By the end of the day, my optometrist had prescribed me a pair of thick glasses. I determined not to use the genie anymore, but I kept the lamp. And several years later, when my second child was born, I found it again. The genie reminded me that I had 2 more wishes. But, the genie added, your wishes will come with a cost. Sighing, I realized that I could hardly do less for my second child than for my first. So I said, oh, genie, please give my son beautiful golden hair. Your wish is granted, said the genie. Over the coming months, friends and family would all remark on what gorgeous hair my son had, blonde ringlets that fell neatly without tangling. But the very next morning, I woke up and noticed I could feel a breeze on my head. I put on my glasses, looked in the mirror, and found I had gone bald. This time, I swore I would never ask anything of that genie again, and I threw the lamp into the farthest corner of the garage in a box of stuff I'd been avoiding sorting out for a decade. But several years passed again, and my third child was born. I wasn't entirely surprised when, the day after we brought her home from the hospital, somehow I came across that lamp again. You have one remaining wish, the genie told me. But your wish will come with a cost. Yeah, I know, I said. In truth, I was a bit older by this point, and I felt a little bad that I'd used my earlier wishes for superficial things like hair and eyes. And here was my chance to make up for that. Genie, I said, I wish for my youngest, my baby girl, to be smart. Your wish is granted, said the genie. Over the coming years, friends and family would all remark on how smart my youngest daughter was. She was the first to read in her preschool and took to math like a fish to water. But the very next morning, I woke up and noticed that my bedroom seemed to have a lot more blue and red and gray than I'd remembered. I put on my glasses to see clearly, and I realized, to my horror, I was a New England Patriots fan. So a man rubs an old lamp, and poof, a genie appears. I will grant you 3 wishes, the genie says. The man grins. For my first wish, I want infinite wishes. The genie shakes his head. Sorry, that's the one rule, you can't wish for more wishes. The man thinks for a moment, then says, all right, I wish for an umbrella. The genie looks puzzled, but makes it appear. Why do you need an umbrella? The man smirks. Because I want you to shove it up your ass. With a pained groan, the genie does as told. Okay, weirdo, what's your third wish? The man leans in and says, grant me infinite wishes before I make you open the umbrella.